Hey y'all, I'm Sunny Shell, and tonight we're going to talk all things geology. We love your questions and try to answer them all, but super chats take priority. So sit back, buckle up, and let's get to the sunny spot on Skeptic Haven. Hey everybody, I am so excited to introduce my guest, Nat or Nattiegnat. And if anyone doesn't know you, which they should, can you tell everyone who you are and what you
Um,
do?
I am kind of the scientist behind a bunch of big TikTokers, and I'm a real life geologist and right now water chemist. Soon to be soil scientist. I'm still in school perpetually, but you can find me on Captain Dadpool's YouTube channel, Nerds and Heresy, or you can find me online as Nattiegnat on TikTok, or you can find me as the Well and Septic Scientist on TikTok, which is a new account that I'm kind of growing to focus solely on like water and environmental issues and science. I love how they just spelled geology. Sorry, uh, beach price. Yeah, I'm loving the spelling of geology. It's making my day. But yeah, other than that, I'm just kind of the person that a lot of people go to as a fact checker before doing videos. I guess I don't know.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a weird niche to fall into. I just made friends, and then they're like, "Oh, so if I have questions, I can ask you." I was like, "Yeah, no, for sure." And the next thing I know, I get them every now and then.
That's so awesome. So we will put the link in the description, and we might even, if I can get someone to put it in the chat, that would be awesome too. Um, yeah, we got people in the background that can do all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and
Um,
we're soon to be going to have a website soon, so we're working on that. What Nerds and Heresy is. So just quick little secret that's not ready like at all yet, but it's coming.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, okay, so behind the scenes, we got totally geeky, and it was so cool, and I can't wait to dive into all these wonderful topics. Um, but I think the first thing that we should do is identify what geology is. I think that there's probably people who either don't know what it is or have a misconception about what it is.
That
So
is that is a big thing. This geology is huge. It is the study of Earth. That is the most simple. That's the simple format of saying it. It is the study of Earth. Things like meteorology, tectonics, a lot of chemistry, specifically mineralogy, oceanography, hydrology. All of these things are kind of subsets of geology. So geology as a topic, it kind of encompasses the elements and what makes up our planet. Pretty much, if it's under the stratosphere, you've got geology. If it's above the stratosphere, it's technically xenogeology if you're talking about rocks. But other than that, that's astronomy. You get a whole other realm. But oh gosh darn it, Ricky, saying hi. But so yeah, so geology study of Earth. A lot of times geologists will get mixed up with archaeologists who study past cultures, specifically with people, or paleontology, which is a subset of or as a subset of geology, but that gets mixed up with archaeology often because that's past creatures. And then there's evolutionary science. I mean, all of this is underneath geology. It's a massive topic. It's kind of hard to just sum up very quickly, but that's the most encompassing I probably can make it.
well, I mean, we could go in so many different areas with that. Is I think people generally think, and this could just be my perception, but I think when people hear geology, they just think rocks.
Oh yeah,
Like,
for sure. There's rocks.
Yeah, those are rocks. So let's talk about rocks.
You would be amazed what rocks can tell us. Like absolutely, and it like just mind blown. But yeah, everyone just sees geology and thinks rocks, but in truth, geologists are your meteorologist, your weather person, and your the like a lighthouse keeper. They need to know a lot about geology. Oceanographers, anyone that's on the Discovery Channel, back when it was good,
actually,
like
yeah.
actual
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, it was, when they were, hard hitting facts and everything. Yeah. So normally they had a geologist on standby for every one of their shows to make sure that their location, make sure that they had good data, make sure that their data could be backed up with others. I mean, but yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Evolution of rocks. Not exactly the terminology I would use because that's like two different. I guess I should explain that really quick then.
And I'll put them up as people ask.
Yeah.
I'll put them up so then the people who watch later aren't like, "What are y'all talking about?" Sorry, future viewers.
So the closest thing I can say about evolution of rocks is probably like we'd have to go all the way back to the beginning of Earth, which is like gosh, I haven't talked about this in forever. I want to say it is 4.656 billion years old. So the evolution of rocks is, I guess, initially was just compounding of all these outside influences turning into a liquid magma molten rock that was slowly cooling, and that would have created the beginning of our evolution of rock. But unfortunately, we don't use the term evolution of rocks because evolution would mean change. And the thing with rocks is that they can change, and they do metamorphosize, and they do switch elements, and they swap out different pieces. Like their chemistry changes all the time, but they don't evolve. We can use the way that rocks are structured as a way to track how they formed, where they formed, and under what circumstances they formed. So that gives us location of Earth, that gives us longitude and latitude information. It gives us how hot it was, like temperature in that area, how much water was present at that time, if there was life or not. That's where like you get fossils and whatnot. So those are the types of things that rocks can tell us simply by just picking one up and looking at it. We can be like, oh yeah, this rock was formed near a volcano. It's intrusive from a felsic area, so it's like light gray. It has a lot of big crystals on it, and it had such and such and such minerals present in this area. So you can imagine that it was highly tectonic, or it was a volcano that was sitting right on a boundary, or things like that, just by looking. And it's a lot of information coming from a little bitty thing. So
I really geek out. You will learn with me. I geek out on all of these topics. I love.
I am an ongoing nerd. Don't. I will just keep doing it.
Yes, I love it. So, really quickly to kind of get this out of the way, because I keep hearing a lot about this. In fact, I was watching a debate. It was on Modern Day Debates, and I don't remember who it was, but anyway, it was talking about Noah's flood. And the person that was on it was describing how we know that never happened, basically because of rocks, but I don't remember exactly what they said. Oh. And so I was wondering if maybe you could go ahead and talk about that. Let's talk about Noah's flood really quickly.
Sure. If we want to do just rocks and we want to do an age form, let's pretend Noah's flood happened in that like 5,000 year mark, right? That's about. I'm not great on the whole biblical timeline. I just know like the 6,000 year old Earth is born, and then 5,000 years like the flood happened, right? So I guess the first thing we can say is if the Earth was flooded in 5,000 years, everything would be sedimentary except what has recently erupted. Like that would be an immediate. Like just all the rock covering the world would be sedimentary. We wouldn't have the arches that we have in like the Southwest. We wouldn't have the Rockies being as crooked and jagged as they look because there would have been a lot of saltwater damage to it. Fun fact, oxygen, specifically water, is the biggest destroying force on this planet. So when I love saying that too, I'm like, oh yeah, we drink water. We literally drink the most destructive thing on the planet. It is the coolest thing. It just, like, you leave something in water for long enough, it will be destroyed. Anything. Which is, yeah, you know, just fun fact. I love it. It's like just one of those things. No, but so that's one of the ways. Like, so we would have tons of sedimentary rock. Another one is a lot of people like to use the shells on the top of mountains as proof that the flood happened. Well, if that was the case, one, those shells would be shells. They wouldn't be lithified. They wouldn't be rock. You wouldn't have this piece of rock that is sitting on a piece of limestone that was at the bottom of an ocean at one point in time. Well, first off, like the artifacts, the fossils that they're finding at the top of these mountains are normally benthic, deep creatures that would live like miles below the surface, like just absolutely in-depth creatures. And unfortunately, that can't happen if they said that there were like peaks sticking out of the flood and you're finding these things like towards shallow-ish areas. It doesn't make sense. A lot of that doesn't happen. The way that those shells and those little invertebrates are making it to the top of those mountains is because they were at an ocean level prior to a massive tectonic event. As we like to say, subduction always leads to orogeny, so use protection. So when you come into contact and you have two continental shelves hitting each other, they will either make mountains or one will subduct under the other. When that subduction happens, there is a crinkle motion that occurs on the one above it, causing it to form, and then you end up with volcanoes and mountains all over the place, right? Say one of these was an ocean floor, and then the other one was a continental shelf. So you have this ocean floor that hits this continental shelf and comes up, pushing everything up as it goes. So you end up with this volcano, which like destroys everything and like recreates the rock, and you have these massive crystals. But then you have this area that was initially like the shoreline that is suddenly at the very top of a mountain with a bunch of igneous stuff underneath it. So there's all these different examples. I don't know where to really go with that. I mean, unless you have specific ones that you want me to debunk, but like it's
no, that I think that first of all, that does help for those who have argued about the shells upon or in any type of fossils that are sea fossils up on the top of mountains. But I think another thing is the strata in the when you go into soil and you see all of, like the picture behind us.
So for those of you that don't know, this is the horseshoe. It's the horseshoe formation that's part of the Grand Canyon. It's on the Colorado River. What you don't realize is that itty bitty. I guess it's down here. I don't know if you can like put a mouse on it, but that itty bitty speck down on the like right below your shirt, that little speck is an island that's about the size of 2 acres. To let you know how big that little island is and versus this view on the Grand Canyon. It just that kind of blows my mind. I got to see kayakers, which like are itty bitty little specks. It was neat. So the Grand Canyon is neat because it has these amazing stratigraphic layers that are almost perfectly preserved. I mean, they pretty much are. And they've been a part of this slowly degrading. Well, water destroys everything, right? So water has just been eroding and weathering this rock slowly through time, exposing layer after layer after layer of neat different rocks. I don't remember the order. I used to of the sediments. I know the top one's sandstone. Like it was like sandstone, and then you have like limestone, and then you have like quartzite, and then you have like sandstone again, and then it goes into like a gneiss formation, and like it gets crazy. And then down at the very bottom you have these like 2 really really metamorphic rocks that are totally like crisscrossed because there was this massive event that happened before getting like eroded down, and then the layers started building up. It's really really cool. I like the Grand Canyon. But yeah, it shows us almost, I think it was 1.3 billion years of Earth history. I feel like I'm wrong on that. Hold on. Allow me to Google. I'm going to fact check myself.
Yeah, to Professor Google, who is well known and well versed in so many topics and so many areas.
Oh, I am so wrong. I'm off by a lot. It's only showing 6 million years, and that's because most of that's sedimentary rock, which moves faster because there's actually more pores in sedimentary rock when the water degrades it. But I know that there are drill holes that go down to almost a billion years
Oh, wow.
of oil that's nearby. So I was way down on that. I've been looking into eruptive compositional changes that occur from the subducted plate. What are you looking into? Are you looking into the shifts that occur at that concretionary wedge, or what kind of compositional changes specifically? Are you looking at the mixtures of that sedimentary rock suddenly magmatizing and melting and then reforming into like quartzite? Or I'm curious. Brian, tell me the things.
Yes. Now, y'all need to. I'm going to take this opportunity to say that one of our perks of being a patron is that you can get a link to come on and actually talk to our guests.
Ooh, that's a good one.
In real time, just like me. You're sitting right next to us virtually, and you can ask whatever question. And so Brian can be here. Yes, he could be like, I want to talk to you about eruptive compositional changes. And they'd be like, oh, that's so awesome. So tell us more about that. And it would be in real time.
So, oh, yeah. I'm always down for someone to pop in and ruin my day. No. Come at me with that pseudoscience nonsense. I know. I do know a few people. I have a few trolls that occasionally, if they find me on a show, they'll pop in and be like, Atlantis is real, and they'll just leave. Like, you've given me no proofs, but cheers. Have fun with that.
Well, if they want to pay money to be a patron and come on, go ahead. Just troll us once. Just once. You won't receive the link anymore, but we'll get your money. Just saying. So
use every time for melting of the subduction tray, defining the precise change there.
Here, I'll put that up on the screen.
Eruption. Yeah, it is a location by location deal. Like when this is super simplistic. When you go to a subducting plate and it starts to lower down, there are different points within that subducting plate that all have different criteria in order to create certain rocks. Like green and blue schist are two of my favorite rocks because you can only find them where there is at the surface has been exposed, where it would be right here. You'd have the subducting concretionary wedge. It has to metamorphize within this rock without getting destroyed by a volcano or any explosive process, and it has to be like it's so hard to come across exactly that, and it's so rare, and yet it's one of my favorite rocks because it's super cool looking. It's just like green and has striation, and like the other one's blue and has striation. But everyone's like, oh, is it a gemstone? It's not a gemstone. It's just a rock. It looks,
but it's a cool rock,
but prettier. But
that's awesome. So how would that happen if it's? Well, I can't do my hands like you have.
I was gonna say,
here we go.
I need a whiteboard. I forgot one.
Wait,
next time I'm on here, tell me to get my whiteboard before I show up.
I will do that.
Oh, I can draw the things and explain it. But yeah. So you want to know how it happens with a concretionary wedge?
Yeah, because I try to do like you do, but I don't do it very often, so my hands won't go quite right. My thumb keeps
I do have a whiteboard. Are you willing to hold on? I will literally go get it and bring it in here so I can draw stuff out.
Oh, I will absolutely. You cool. Get it. Absolutely get it. Right so back. While she's gone, I will tell all of you that if you like the type of shows that we are doing and you want to keep this coming, there are ways that you can do that. Free ways are liking, subscribing, sharing, hitting the bell so you get all the notifications of our new shows. You can also check out our other shows like Bible Says What. Oh my gosh, my brain just stopped because I'm on the spot. Women Atheist Unload, Global Atheist, and Secular Soapbox. And I hope I got them right because I usually say them when I'm doing my closing. Let me look. Isn't that right? Yes, Secular Soapbox, Women Atheists Unload, Global Atheist, and the Bible Says What. So check all of those out and like them. And then if you want to, check out our Patreon account and, and go ahead. I cannot believe I can't think of the names of things. I'm so dorky right now. But go ahead and subscribe as a patron. That would be so cool.
Should go get my giant board. Hold on. Hold on. Had to go get my board off my wall because I can do this. I'm gonna do it this way. I think that might work a little better.
I love this. This is feeding my geek.
I have 4. Whiteboards are my friends.
Yes, I love whiteboards.
Okay, so basic subduction zone. Let's do this. You have land, right? Woo-doo. Right, I'm gonna draw a little tree. There's my land, right? And then it's going to hit this nice, beautiful water, right? So you have this wedge that occurs, and this comes downward. So this is moving this way, and this one is moving in this direction. Can you see that very well?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
I can. I'm hoping everybody else can.
If you can't, I can try and use a different, bigger marker or something. So what you end up with here is you have like a shoreline, right? You have to think about all the environmental aspects that, like, you have like the beach and everything, and this is getting crinkly and problematic. But what was initially here is now down here, right?
Okay.
So that's been flushed down. So you have this category of saltwater, marine life, high amounts of like calcium carbonates. So like all those little shells and everything, they all end up down here and they become super duper hot, but they don't quite turn to magma. They just squish like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just like super duper flattened, like a car's run over it a few million times. It is so very thin. But yeah, so you end up with this wedge, which is kind of looks like this. Like, we'll just pretend this is the wedge. So initially it was like sand and everything. So you have like these little shells, and then you have some layers of sediment, and you have some like coral and everything. But then it turns into this itty bitty rock. But it's green or it's blue, depending on temperature change. And that's the only difference, is how much water got in there and how much the temperature was varied, and that literally changes the color. That's it. It's just crazy, right? So it's, I don't know, I kind of blows my mind, because I'm just like, it has all the same things, but one's really green and one's really blue, and it just drives me nuts.
So how does it get back up to the or close to the surface where you're able to find them?
Hold on. Here. Erase my beautiful drawing, right? So you have now, okay, we'll just do the blue. I think the brown's a little darker, so we'll do that. So you have this concretionary wedge, right, that has turned in. So you have this that has gone downhill. That's not very dark at all. Go back to the black. And over time, like, this has created mountains, right? So you end up with these crazy mountains, some volcanic activity, right? And your little concretionary wedges here, but there's a giant thing of magma that's, Earth's mantle. Can you tell I'm a scientist? You can't read my handwriting at all. But yeah, so you end up with this mantle that's constantly pushing things up and allowing eruptions to happen, right? All around this area, you're getting igneous rock. Like, all of this is igneous rock. But here, and like this area, you're just getting metamorphic because of the heat that's coming off. So this nice little concretionary wedge, as this moves up and this pushes in, like, I mean, this mantle is slowly going to eventually push out. Think of a little teenage kid with all the pimples. Like, the pressure is going to move things out, right? So this will eventually shift upward, especially if, like, there's water here pushing away, constant, like, tides coming and going and coming and going. It'll erode away until something is exposed. this will suddenly be lower, and then it'll be lower, and the mountain will be bigger, right? So has anyone ever been to like the Catalina Island off of like California or anything? Because that's kind of where I'm getting at here, is because then you end up with this cool island, right? And this is now up here, and you have this entire wedge of green schist and blue schist just hanging out at the surface.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
It just shows up after a while. Like, it's, yeah, because everything's constantly cycling. So you have to start at the beginning in order to get to the end, but my lovely drawing, it's not very pretty.
No, that's great, because I am a product of the public school systems, right? So
right.
In what I always thought is that when you have the things and this one goes down, when you have the things, that's really awesome. When this happens,
electronics.
Yes. And this one goes
erogeny.
yeah, erogeny. I will remember that now.
So, orogenic events are mountain building events. Orogeny is literally the building of mountains. So subduction is when a plate goes under another. Orogeny happens as a result of that plate going under another because of buoyancy. Buoyancy is what happens when it goes down far enough, and then this very, very tip of the subduction is like, oh no, we're not as dense, or we're much less dense than like the nickel and the other silica that is very much hot in the mantle. So it'll just randomly go after this little event. It'll just randomly go whoop, and then you end up with this weird plateau because it's moving upward. There's been some cases where it's like this has happened multiple times, so you end up with these swirls of mountains that are like upside down. It's so cool.
That's awesome. I've got to look up a picture of that, because that sounds great. I always thought
find the things.
I thought that the subduction plate ended up like just getting into the magma. You're gonna laugh, but this is what I thought.
Yeah,
it got into the magma and like melted or become magma itself, and so that just disappeared. But then you have other stuff that's coming up because of like volcanoes or whatever else, and so it just keeps going. I had no idea.
That is the baseline for it. That's where the movement goes. You just have to remember that like not everything is uniform. So pieces of it will go down and melt, but then there might be like one area that's super buoyant, and that's just going to come right back up. So it'll break off, and that's why we have these earthquakes that are so deep within the mantles, because little pieces of these plates are like cracking and breaking off, so that one can go down, other can go up, and you end up with things like, well, so that's not a subduction zone. So I was about to say, I'm like, you end up with the Sierra Nevadas, but that's actually not very accurate. I mean, it is, but it's not. But we won't get into the science of Sierra Nevadas. It's really confusing. But you end up with the not San Franciscan Fault. What is the LA? The
San Andreas?
LA, which is store. San Andreas. That's it.
I got something. Woo! I'm all sciencey now.
But yeah, points. So that's a transform fault, but that occurs over. So I can't even tell you how many plates there are now. I think there's 3 that are all underneath California and all moving in different directions. But the only fault that is that has surface visibility is the San Andreas, which is moving sideways. So yeah, but like you have to think about it too, because any of those ones that come down and rise back up, they are still moving underneath those other plates. So what happens when another plate comes by, like you end up with like 2 plates side by side going over, and you end up with a subduction zone underneath coming this way, you end up with like layers of different zones going all at once. At the same time. Layers. And this is kind of been a new topic of discussion within geology that isn't fully understood, but we do know that that's happening, and it gets really complicated. And this is okay. So this whole discussion I've been talking about is tectonics, just tectonics. I haven't even gotten into the other stuff yet. These are just little bits. I'm just poking things. So
I wish that I would have had a science class or a geology class like this when I was in high school, because I think if or even middle school, because I think if our kids had something like this, it would draw their interest more. They'd be more interested in science.
I agree wholeheartedly. I also, and this is gonna sound like just a dick move, but I also think that there are some scientists that are brilliant, and they should definitely be scientists. But then there's some scientists that are, they're not as brilliant, but they think they are, and then they end up being teachers. And then they wait, no, I was taught by a gatekeeping physicist in high school. Like, he did not think that, like, he didn't express it per se, but he really had no interest in letting the kids learn the physics. He liked the fact that we were confused because it made him feel superior. It was I'm totally psychoanalyzing this dude that like taught me back in like freshman year, but you could tell he enjoyed our confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Not like us to understand things and like ask pertinent questions beyond this is this. It was just
right.
It
was more about his ego than anything. I actually had that even in college. I wanted to be a neuropsychologist, and my first anatomy class, the guy was a real jerk because he wanted to be at Johns Hopkins instead of our little podunk college, as far as he was concerned.
Yeah, of course. Now, like, so, I do not even consider myself a very intelligent geologist. Like, I'm not going to lie to you about this. Like, I have been around some brilliant geologic minds. Mine is not one of them. I can honestly say I understand it, but I am not the brilliant mind behind concepts that haven't occurred yet. Like, I could not, I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't know. I could never go into get a PhD in geology strictly because I wanted to study one thing. I don't see, although arguably when it comes to soil, I do think I'm brilliant with soil. And the reason why is because I'm obsessed with mud. I love mud. I love being able to track mud and different sort of elements as they move through the earth and through groundwater. That's cool as shit to me. That's more my area. But soil is not rock. Soil is organic rock. That's right. If you're a geologist out there, you can shoot me. Because everyone hates that. Rocks are not organic. Rocks are inorganic. Soil is a weird mixture between organic and inorganic chemistries. So we say that soil is like living rock. And that is blasphemous amongst the geology community, but it's also blasphemous amongst the like living, like the biology community. They're like, no, this is not real. I was like, yeah, explain decomposition and why certain rocks are needed for decomposition. Because, lichens kind of sort of need that phosphorus and they need the potassium that comes off of like rhyolite rocks. But they also like to have trees. So you kind of need both.
That's so cool. My mind is just like blown now.
Sorry,
now it's
I will just rant until someone stops me.
I will not stop you because now I'm like, oh my gosh, so what are we talking about now? Tell me about the soil. Tell me about this.
I just jumped from stratigraphy and rock to like talking about soils, and soils actually have a stratigraphy as well, but we call it horizons rather than bedrock for, sciencey terminology. I'm a bit too scared of glaciers. Many people want to die on Glacier River out here. Oh yeah, glaciers are cool. Glaciers. Oh, glaciers. Oh,
that was because up here, Beige put this in.
Fell in love with how glaciers carved the land because a week after I learned it in school, I was standing on the results in Ontario. Yeah, that would do it. Chatter marks are cool. Yeah, I like to go to Iowa and find igneous rocks and be like, this came from 100 miles away, moving at like an inch, like every like few hundred years until it showed up randomly in his backyard. And someone's like, it's just a rock. I'm like, it's a rock, but I can find its origin. And like, if I had the devices, I could like carve a little bit of it, and I can find, if I cut it in half, I can find unweathered specimen of this rock and map it out according to like glacial patterns and like to be able to trace it all the way back to like some random igneous event that happened back in like, I don't know, the Pleistocene and friggin' like, I don't know, a mammoth kicked it with its hoof, and it ended up getting squished into some ice, and the next thing you know, it's deposited in Iowa, and this was like all the way up in like the Utan, or not Utan, the none of it, like up in Canada area. Are we going to talk about mycelium now? Heck yeah, fungi!
I've never seen someone get so excited about fungi.
Oh my god, no. Okay.
I'm now excited about it too.
For those of you that know, like, if you know, you know. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you. If you put Forrest and me in the same room and we start talking science, my God, the amount of energy, it gets crazy up in here. Like, I just,
okay,
I don't know how to explain it. We just go.
I want that. So we talked about that in the background. Is that we want to have both of you on.
Yeah.
And I want to see that. I want to experience it. I have not lived until I experience that.
If Dadpool is still here, he can vouch for it, because he knows there was a time that we invited Forrest on, and he Forrest and I just kind of took over the show, and Dadpool just sat there and just like,
Okay, yeah. Dadpool, you can come on too, and you and I can just sit there going like this the whole time. Really? Wow.
That's the one thing, like, if I have the whiteboard, oh my God, Forrest will be like, I need you to draw something, Nat. And I'll just go. Tell me. But yeah, it's God, he talk about a brilliant mind. That is a brilliant mind. I respect and am fully in awe of Forrest for the things that he knows, because he branches out into, oh gosh, branches out into the complexities of biology that I haven't even touched. I mean, like, I have observed from a distance, but have not actually applied to anything. And then he gets into evolutionary biology, which gets into, like, you know, the genetics of everything. And that's where I'm like, whoo, that's not my area. Like, I stop there. Like, I appreciate you and your alleles. Please show them somewhere else. Like, I can't. Like, then phenotypes go.
That's so funny.
Phenotypes show and genotypes don't. Anyway, sorry, science jokes, nerd humor.
So I want to know more about the soil, because you guys so excited about the soil.
I love soil. Soil is so cool.
We spent a lot of time talking about, like, it's not called tectonic plates, but whatever it is that we were talking about, the sub things and the top
Subduction,
things.
yeah, that's a tectonic, that's a boundary. Yeah, it's a tectonic boundary.
Well, I want to know really what it is about soil that gets you so excited, and what can we learn about?
It might be because it's kind of my area of expertise, but it's also a very valid opinion of mine. And it's mostly based on fact. I'm going to throw this out here. That without soil, there would be no life. Just soil. Soil in and of itself. Without the structure and the relevance of soil itself, you would grow no life. You wouldn't have plants. You would have no types of baseline structures or chemical reactions that, chemical variances that would allow for different ecosystems. You would not have, let's just, when it comes to no soil, let's see what I'm actually talking about is the Dust Bowl. What happened with the Dust Bowl? Well, the organics and the chemicals that are normally, and the nutrients that are normally found within the soil were completely farmed out of it. There was no preservation within their farming cultures, and the soil turned into just sand and clay, and it took out all the organics, and that soil became rock.
Oh,
yeah, there's a little bit of a click you gotta wait for, though. Isn't soil dead biomatter? Some of it is. Yes, it absolutely is. Depending on the extent of it, you will have things like, oh, I found a new word the other day. Well, it's not really new to me, but like, I didn't realize most people don't use the word hummus when they are talking about soil. They think of like a Greek dipping sauce.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh no, hummus, however you want to pronounce it, is actually extremely fine particulates of decaying matter that make it makes like a sludge, but it's only organic matter. But if you add just a little bit of hummus to any sort of like rock, you create these amazing vacuum spaces where all these microorganisms will live and thrive. They will pull and like the water will come whenever it's like precipitating, and the water will go through the ground and cause all of these chemicals to start to break and turn into the super saturated construct of nutrients that plants can just suck right up like fucking straw. I was trying really hard not to swear, and that was the first one, I think.
You have
right?
done so well, but go ahead.
I swear a lot. When I can't think of words, just swear words come out of my mouth.
I do that too.
Like I said, I can't think of the words, so I'm just gonna say fuck a bunch of times until something comes out.
I totally can relate to that.
Right? No, so this organic matter mixed with these like certain types of rock. So say you have let's just say you have quartzite, something really, really, I'm going to say simplistic. No one judge me on this. Like, no geologist needs to judge me on this. There's no such thing as a simplistic rock, but we're going to say quartzite because it's a uniform concept. You have a bunch of degrading quartzite as your baseline, like sea horizon. That is your lovely, mushy, degraded rock that is slowly kind of filtering towards the surface. And you have organic matter coming down to kind of mix in with it in the water and everything. You end up with a lot of silica matter or silica-based silica-based soils. But they're all really sandy. So it'll be super easy because quartzite silica doesn't really absorb into plants. Plants don't really use the silica very much. So they'll take everything around it and you end up with these itty bitty little sand beads, right? So these little sand beads, you'll start collecting a bunch of them, right? And if you don't have more and more organic matter to resustain that soil, you'll end up with like random sand dunes. I don't know. You know how when you go down, no, that's not a good example because that's not the origin of it. Have you been to the Midwest at all?
I have, yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen, and I wish I had a diagram of this, or like a picture, but have you ever seen like rolling hills and like it's green and then it turns red and then it turns like white and then it goes back to red and then it goes.
I have seen that.
White,
yes.
That white is that complete, like all of the nutrients from that little strip of soil have been either sunk or have like eroded away to expose only silica or only sand left over. The red is this crazy redox reaction happening with any of the iron or magnesium that's left behind prior to any of those nutrients leaving. And then where it's green, of course, there's more nutrients. Plants are growing. So what do we do about that? Like, we don't want an entire field to turn into the white sands and the red streaks. That's dangerous. By having that happen, you lose, not like, to remediate it takes years. So when you have it happen to a lot of areas in one specific location, you lose the ability to grow anything. And that is kind of terrifying when you think about it, especially when you see how people farm at such high rates when they're farming arbitrary things instead of, like commercialized farming versus like the goods. I'm not going to get political. I'm going to try not.
No, but that brings up such a good point. I wonder, when you said that, I was thinking about white sands. What is that? Is that New Mexico? I think it is.
So yeah, there's White Sands, New Mexico, I believe, and then there's also hold on, I gotta think of the name. There's the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado. However, those are not.
Okay, those are not the same thing.
That is, okay. Those are actually, it's grains and granules of sand that are eroded away from the mountains and carried in the wind, and it just happens to be in those two locations. Those are like wind pockets where like the wind stops and everything drops.
Now that makes perfect sense. I used to live in New Mexico, so you have the Sandia Mountains, and they're like, it's like an upside down slice of watermelon, the way that it is. And so that makes sense because then right past that, like, I can't remember the direction. My directions are bad, but right past that, you have like Albuquerque on one side, and then you have the white sands on the other, but further away. It's like there's a green
Right.
greenish.
There's a gap. It's like a valley
Yeah.
or a cove where the wind will just take and pick up the sediments and then drop them, which is why those sands are so fine. It's because they are carried via wind. They are completely terrestrial. Like it's neat because they're not deposited by water, which is also kind of crazy because most things are, and it's one of those oddities. And I mean, of course, there's still like noting that, like, as far as oddities go, there are still geologic formations that are still just kind of speculated on. We haven't seen it occur, or we haven't had enough experience with certain bits to understand it fully. Like there are these mounds that are in, and they're not man-made. They are, we believe they are a mixture of earthquakes and soft igneous material, from what I remember reading. But there's these mounds in like Washington State that they look like little hobbit structures from like, I don't know how to explain it other than that to give you good imagery. And if we were to look it up, you would, I mean, they just are perfect little round little knobs, and they're just spread out.
I've seen them.
And that's a nice little geologic mystery that there are a lot of people trying to study it and figure it out, but not everyone knows.
That's why I saw it. So my husband likes watching the ancient alien stuff, and they had a whole thing on that. Yeah, it drives me up the wall. But
I can't. I haven't met your husband yet, but I'm going to call him out on that. That entire
absolutely
show
should.
is horrible, and I don't mean that just in the sense of like the things that they're teaching. The baseline for that show is racism. The entire show, like anytime.
I didn't even catch that. Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. No, wait for it. It'll blow your mind, because this is something that Archeo Wolf and I talk about a lot, and he nails it. Like every time he throws out a video, it talks about like everyone loves Graham Hancock and everybody loves ancient aliens, and that is like his specialty, is being able to take them and knock them back down to where they actually are. So ancient aliens likes to take cultures that aren't white and say that, well, these humans couldn't make this. Aliens had to do it.
Oh my gosh. It's like one of those things where, the pictures, the memes with the picture, it'll take you a bit to catch it, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And when you just said that, I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, so I'm going to let this question really quick go, because
and I'd love to talk about this. So I did work with archaeologists for quite some time. That's kind of how I got to know Archeo Wolf and everybody. I worked out in the field for a while, and I specifically worked with lithics, which is early human stone tool use. So how do I have any knowledge of it? Yes, I have a fair amount of knowledge about it. Can you talk about the properties of the rocks that would have been used? Yes, I suppose. It's the properties of the rocks that have need to be used are those that have a lot of either carbon in them, or at one time held carbon, especially if you're talking about flint. And I mean that in the sense of making fire, not so much in the sense of flint napping. But the reason why that name is correlated is because those are kind of the same type of rock. You find chert. Chert is an overall encompassing word that describes the material that you can create arrowheads and knives and I was about to say bivalves, bifaces. Bivalves are cool little shells that are fossils, not artifacts. Bifaces are scraping tools that are made from the rocks. Don't you just love it when you like intermingle all these different categories? So we're shifting over to archaeology, but geology actually comes in handy with archaeology, and I get a lot of, Pat is here. Pat knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so Pat will probably correct me on anything I say wrong, which will be great. I like having someone to like audit me when I talk, because I'll just go and they're like, yeah, but this, and I'm like, oh, you're right. That is a thing.
Okay, then we need to have you, Forrest, and Pat on.
Me, Forrest, Pat, Archeo Wolf. If we can get Joannosaurus, Marchiosaurus. There's a bunch of others. Hank Green, I need to meet you. Some point, I need to pick your brain. I've been trying to reach him for ages, and I still haven't, which is unfortunate. But no, so going into it, so you have these particular types of rock that you can use to make lithics. And the way that I can go about describing them is that these rocks at one point of time held a lot of organic matter, and they were pressed down underneath layer after layer of stratigraphy and squished. But the way that I would describe these rocks is if you ever go to a lagoon or perhaps a marsh and you end up with these super gooey, squishy, slimy feeling areas right along the edge of the surface of the water, and you go to touch, that is what chert was. And so you'll find chert near limestone, and you'll find chert near shale, and of course shale alludes to like oil and all of that fun stuff, but chert is your friend. You're out in the woods, you need a knife, you need fire, chert is your friend. Striking chert against itself creates enough heat and friction to cause sparks to just fly. And the thing is, with chert, when you strike it, it acts a lot like glass. And I actually would argue that it acts more like water. And this freaks people out. But when you strike a rock, if you have a rock like so, and you strike it here, there is going to be a reverb, a movement of, can you dig it? There's going to be a reverb and a movement of that strike that goes down to the bottom of the rock and then comes right back up, causing that rock to shatter, right? And you end up with a rock like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay, I got it.
That reverb is like a water droplet. If you were to drip water onto the surface of the water and it goes boing and like creates that ripple. If you can imagine that happening at like 500 times the same speed as a water droplet doing that, that's what's going on with the rock. Now, that's not how, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the offensive term of cavemen, but that's not how the cavemen thought when it came to breaking the rock. But they learned, I don't want to say instinctively, not intrusively. They learned through trial and error that if they struck it with certain amount of speed and at certain angles, they could create sharper and sharper points until you finally end up with these perfectly amazing arrowheads that are so strong and so sharp. And I mean, it's just, they, dad teaches son to grandson to everything, and it just passes on. This knowledge just evolves through time, and you end up with not just like a basic arrowhead, but you end up with these fine little bird points that are super hard to make, but are really, really effective and great at doing exactly what they do. They're the job. Here's a fun fact. I took a group of, just random story. I took a group of construction workers to an archaeology site or an archaeology museum because I wanted to show them early tools. They had no clue that early humans, and I don't even want to say early humans, but like indigenous people, not just like not too long ago, could make hooks out of rock, could make drill points and have actual drills to be able to like make holes. I mean, these construction workers, these guys were just blown away with the simple fact that people have been using the same tools for so long, and we just made them electric. That's all we did. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard. Like, I mean, we added electricity to it, but in all, they made these things that just, I mean, it's like, it's unfathomable, but it's how we have evolved as a species, and it's just fascinating.
That's so cool.
I'm just kind of like touching on things, and I don't know how to get into the depth of them because then I'll just kind of.
And that's okay, because this has been extremely exciting. I want to ask you a question about the rock on your whiteboard behind you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Is that the black, shiny, almost glass-like stuff that we see sometimes?
Sorry. You're talking about obsidian, is that right? Are you thinking about obsidian?
Like I don't know. I guess that's what it is. Because I always see where they like.
So this can be obsidian, but it can also be, it can be like this crazy brown color, and I've seen it in red, and like a lot of people call them agates, and it's just.
Oh yes.
It's just really, really fine. You cannot see the grains in this. The rocks where like the grains are literally invisible to the naked eye. Even under a microscope, you would have a hard time detecting the grains because it's made strictly out of clay and not out of silt or having any bubbles. This is actually a really nice piece because there's like not holes on the inside.
That's
I
it. That's
fucked up
exactly
this
it.
one. This is a really nice piece that I picked up a long time ago. And I was trying to flint nap it, and it was going really well. And then I just straight up just broke it. And I was very sad. It was a very sad day for Nat.
So is that okay?
Oh yeah, chalcedony is another type that you can find. Obsidian works. Sapphire, not so much, unless you find the sapphire, the correlating bedrock that you find sapphire in can sometimes have it, but not so often.
So I don't remember where I saw this at, but some program anyway was talking about that material and how they would make arrowheads and so forth, but they actually used it as currency because it was so sharp and strong, but it was if you didn't do it right, it could break.
Right.
And so to get the craftsmen, the people who were craftsmen to get it just right, it became so valuable that it was traded for other goods.
So, fun fact, you can actually you can figure out okay, so hold on. I'm going to do this one more time. We're going to do it again. It's going to happen. We're going to do archaeology now, okay? We're going to do archaeology that uses geology to figure out movement, okay? Get this. This is the fun part.
Okay.
You are part of a tribe. I'm going to use a triangle. It is not because it's a teepee. I'm just using it as a home base. I'm used to drawing triangles as location things, mountains.
Gotcha.
You're part of a tribe and or culture from point A. We're just going to call it A, right? And you are trading with point B, which is another one, right? But what we find is we know about point A. We don't know about point B. And we found this weird site down here that we'll just call C that we thought was a part of A. But it turns out it's an entirely different one. And the reason why is because we notice A does not have something that B and C does. So let's say C has, hold on, I'll use a different color. C happens to have these really cool arrowheads that look like such, okay? Boop, boop. But A has an arrowhead that looks like this. Right? So you find them and they look like this, but this one looks like this. Now that could be a discrepancy of age. That could be a discrepancy of the timeline of evolution. It could be when this tribe existed and these ones didn't. But what you find out is that these two are the same material. And these two are different material, but they're the same design. So what does that tell us? Well, B is the source for the material. And either C or B are the sources for the idea of that structure, right? So say you start digging and you have a site and you find this other little area that's B1, a tinier little area, and you find an arrowhead like that. But it's not made of this material. It's made of one of the materials you find down here. Well, that's evidence that C might be trading with A as well. You can track the movement of trade. You can track the movement of knowledge through finding artifacts that are correlating from certain sources. Now, another way of doing that is if you had, so same deal kind of thing. We're going to take away the design, take away everything. Geologists know there is a quarry of chert here. Okay, we know that there's a source of this chert. We also know that there's a site. The blob is the site that's down here, right? We'll just do another A. But we find chert some, let's say 500 miles southeast in this other weird site, right? But chert only comes from here. Only comes from there. You can correlate the material of here from this original source using artifacts that were found here to give you an idea or an idea of the peoples that were trading it. Now, this is the fun part, is it's not always traded as the deal. It's traded as literally as an ore. So they'll bring you this massive rock that is perfect to flint nap, and somebody from this site down here will be like, oh, I can make 5 things from that. and then they'll give it back to A as a form of exchange. So you end up with like these really, really cool patterns of movement and patterns of knowledge that archaeologists use, and they can't confirm this without a geologist saying, yes, this is the exact same material from here as up here. And that is where geology comes in handy. So,
that's so cool. That is just so cool.
So that's something that I studied a lot of when I was an undergrad. Is I stumbled across a Clovis site and ended up doing a lot of comparisons between chert. In fact, did you know there are exactly 76 different types of chert in Iowa alone? I do, because I studied that. Like, I had to do the things. But yeah.
You've got to be the most fun at parties. Because I would be like, I could just see like a whole bunch of people with wine and just standing there like listening to everything.
Oh yeah, I have, yes. I don't know if I'm fun at parties or okay. So it is a 50 as to whether or not I'm fascinating or boring the crap out of people. It is one or the other. And the nice part is I'm on the spectrum, so I don't know how to read a room. So if somebody's like, Nat, you need to stop talking, I'll be like, okay. And like everyone's just like, why did you stop talking? I was like, I don't know. Somebody said that I was like needing to stop talking, so I just stopped. That's not what I was supposed to do. Well, so I see someone in here is like autistic berserker. Hi, I was like, what's the new Taylor Swift song? It's like, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. It's hi, it's me. I'm the autistic scientist that doesn't know what's going on. It's me.
Well, I absolutely have enjoyed this. It's at the hour, and yeah. I want to be respectful of your time. Oh, and I have got to have you on again very, very soon. And I want all these other people.
Subjects. Give me when you were like, when Wes was like, hey, we're just going to do geology as a broad. I was like, wow. I haven't even touched on 1% of geology. There's so much.
Oh my gosh. That's true. We have jumped from topic to topic to like sidetracks. It's made it fun. Oh, this is the type of show that I love because, well, I just feel like if my attention is totally kept and I'm just like sitting here going, it's got to make everybody else do that too.
Pat's just laughing at me. His emojis are just telling me everything I need to know about what I've done.
Pat, I got to have you back on again too. So you're going to have to come on with Nat, and we just got to have us a party. Our own little Skeptic Haven party.
You know what? I have to brag about Pat. A year ago around this time, I was like sick as a dog and things were like really, really crappy. And Pat sent me some Roman coins and I just freaked out. Like I was just like, bleh! Like I made so many TikToks about it and it was just, Pat's an amazing friend. I love him so much. And we have not talked in a while. So if you get Pat on here, I am so joining.
Oh, absolutely. I've loved when Pat's been on. So we have to have a Pat Nat party. Pat Nat party.
I will reach out to Forrest at some point and see if when he's available. He is a nocturnal person, so I could probably text him pretty soon. But he's kind of taken over Matt Dillahunty's spot in
Atheist Experience.
Yeah, that's the show. And I'm really, really happy about that. Like, I didn't expect them to be like a full-time replacement, but like that's awesome, and I'm so proud of him for it.
And he's so good at it.
So much of his time now, I'm just like, oh no, I can't kidnap Forrest anymore. He's busy.
Well, I'm gonna admit something to you. So when I first saw him, I saw him before he was on Atheist Experience. I went across one of his videos.
Yeah.
And I've been dying to have him on ever since. And we've actually tried like to contact him.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to exactly. Like we went through his website or whatever.
Well,
so when you said Forrest,
I can text him. I can just, I'll just text him. I mean, I can also do that with Matt Dillahunty and like a lot of other people. But remember, like I am just like a little. For some reason I make friends with these creators that are massive and And I just kind of sit there and I get very, very proud of them when I teach them something and then they teach the public. Like, it makes me so happy that they're like explaining, because I'm always like, I'm way too self-conscious about a lot of things. So I'm like, I don't want to explain it, because what if I explain it wrong and someone attacks me, and like they'll take the brunt of it, and I'll give them all the information they need, but they'll take it for me, and I'm just like, yay, you do the thing for me, yeah.
I am so excited. I was just watching him. Was it last? I think it was not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. I think is the one I was watching. And I said to my husband, "I've got to get him on. I've got to get him on. How can I get him on?" And he just kind of looks at me like, "Whatever, you know." That's whatever.
Has your husband like sat and watched him? Because if he likes Ancient Aliens, he should have him watch the one episode of Reactoria. Just have him watch like that. Just like a little 10 minutes. But
well, when I saw him, my husband ended up seeing him like maybe a couple days later, and he goes, "Hey, have you seen this guy?" I'm like, "Yes, I have seen him. I want him on my show." So yeah, and I will say that my husband likes watching Ancient Aliens, kind of like a dummy thing, you know, that plays, you know.
Oh
just
no!
because he didn't have to think.
I love watching. Okay, one of my favorite shows to have just going on in the background a lot of the time is I'll have like Ice Road Truckers stuff just playing in the background.
I used to. Oh my gosh, I used to watch that.
I can't do anything that has anything to do with my career path, because I'll sit there and just be like, "No, that's wrong." And then with Ice Road Truckers, I'm just like, "Haha, they slipped off a road."
Yes. See, I totally relate to that, because I used to watch Law and Order SVU. I used to love that, and then I work in child sex abuse. So now when I see it,
oh my God,
I'm like, that doesn't even happen. You make it look like it happened in one day, and you just solved it, and it gets done in the court system.
That's one of the biggest pet peeves, isn't it? It's just, yeah. No, I love it when people are like, "Oh yeah, this was discovered really recently," and I was just like, well, technically it wasn't discovered recently. It's just it was published recently. It was discovered like 4 years ago. Like, I think it was back in June. I had someone say, it's like, yeah, in North Carolina, they found like some T-Rex, or not T-Rex, they were on like Triceratop bone somewhere. And I was like, oh, yeah. And like in the back of my head, I was like, that happened a few years ago, I thought. And then I'll look up, oh, they just published it. Never mind. Now I know why. And then brought up, oh, that thing. Yeah, that was a while ago.
I totally get that. When you're passionate about something and you have like the background knowledge that
I have the ins in some places.
Yeah, that's so cool.
To hear things before things show up. When it comes specifically to like geology and whatnot, like it's like, oh no, we're gonna have an article come out that's gonna be at like SCA or something, or not SCA. What am I thinking of? At SAA or at the GSA conference. Like, somebody's gonna be presenting on this article that's super sketch, and we're like all not happy about it. We're just like, everyone's like repping their notes to be ready to like interrogate this person that's going to present this horrific idea. Like, we're not okay with it.
Oh my gosh.
Granted, we never make fun of the scientist. We only make fun of the idea, unless the scientist is a dick, and then it's fair. It's absolute fair game. That is the deal. Like, don't be a dick. You break that rule, fair game to make fun of the scientist as well as his work.
I completely agree with you. And I will be right there with you. I won't understand a lot of it that's going on, but I'll be like, yeah, what she said.
Yeah. Hype man. I love it. Oh my God. I need to get Forrest on here. You need to just, it's like we play badminton while we're talking. Like, we'll just be bouncing back and forth. Like,
I'm just going to enjoy this. I'm just going to sit back. This is going to be my self-care. Is just watching you guys, listening, and then it's like,
don't get us on the topic of parasites. That gets us both like all sorts of excited for no apparent reason. We have favorites, and we have those that don't. Like, I love parasites that cause psychological differences, and he loves parasites that literally destroy genomes. Like, I'm upset. Anyway, well, that's a whole other topic for another time. I will text him, and it's this show's on every Monday, right?
Yep, every
Monday. I will let him know. I will see if there is a Monday that he is free, and I will try to make sure I am free as well, and we will do the things.
Thank you so much. I love you now. Just so you know, I now love you.
Pat, Pat just has some of my research from 4 years ago just got published. See, so like Pat knows, like it, and now it's out. Everyone's like, oh, this is so cool, this is so new, and Pat's just like, well, technically, I knew this like 4 years ago, and there's actually some stuff I'd like to add to it now. Like, there's like, I mean, I've learned a lot since then, so that's a thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. I'm thinking that people who watch this are either going to love us or they're going to be like, "What in the world is going on?"
I'm going to get all of the hate mails. Like, Nat, stop talking. You're getting way too nerdy. Like, just stop.
Well, on this show, we call it, the sunny spot. I almost think it should be the nerdy spot because I get so geeked out about this stuff, and to me, that's great.
I love it when I find someone that's in any field of science. The nerdiest, most boring person in the world will still sound interesting if you get them to talk about the thing that they love.
Yeah.
That is, and the problem with me is, as a neurodivergent person, I just like a lot of things. Like, there's a lot going on. You know what? Like, I shit you not. Today, I went out to the chicken coop and I collected a bunch of chicken feathers, and I just got done washing them, and I'm literally going to start dyeing them. Like, I have a bunch of chicken feathers.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh.
I'm about to make a bunch of feather, like, slides for like my microscope. Why? I don't know. I wanted to know. I wanted to see what was in the feathers. I was really curious.
Oh my gosh, I just adore you. Okay. I'm so geeking out. I've lost like all of my host stuff. I feel like it's gone out the window.
Okay.
So do you have any like
what? It's okay. You can tell Igor to shut up. It's fine.
Oh my gosh, I'm dying here. So come back. You can just live on my show if you want to.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure this is kind of one of the reasons why Dadpool like put me as his co-host.
I would not doubt it because this is fantastic. I have had some awesome nights. Like I get off the show and I go in and I said, "Oh my gosh, this was the best show ever," and it's been so much that he goes, "So was this another best show ever?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was." No, this.
Oh, Dadpool does that all the time, and I sit there and I'm like, I need to wait a minute. Like I'll give it a day or two and be like, it's not the top 10. But like anytime Forrest is on with me, or anytime I get Dr. Kip on, oh fuck, I go berserk. Those two, when I get to pick their brain, I just go absolutely insane. It is, I enjoy them. Their brains are big and beautiful. They're just fun to
There is nothing better than a big, beautiful, smart brain that's being used effectively.
Right.
Now, when I started that, I just realized that probably could have gone.
There's nothing more gorgeous than a big, beautiful brain. And you know what? I do mean in a jar, and you can all quote me on that. I'm an auditing person. I can deal. It's okay.
Yeah.
I make jars of dirt and glass, and like this is a little jar.
Do you know that I love those little jars?
Terrariums to sell at North Forge's event.
That's so cool, though. I can see that. I can see that being cool.
Random, like yeah, it's my ADHD dopamine kicks. They're just like, this is the thing you should do, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it now. And then you just learn the things. But yeah, we are running out of time. I think I'm okay. Like I don't have anything scheduled, but you guys only ever do the show for an hour, so I'm just gonna let it go.
Well, I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this. We have talked about so many things, and you're right. We've only just barely hit the surface. Not even the surface. It's like just the like film on the top of the surface of each of these. But do you have any final comments that you want to make? Any final thoughts that could wrap it all up?
If we're gonna do this again, we need to narrow down the topic.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do.
Even you might think that you found a topic that's narrow, and I will still jump off on rants that you're gonna have no idea meant to like that they correlated. Like you won't know what I'm gonna do.
And you know what? I am okay with that. I am absolutely okay with that. I don't need to know. I will be as surprised as everybody else,
That's
and
fair.
it'll be good. It'll be good. So, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I hope everyone had as much fun as we did, because we obviously had a lot of fun. But I want everybody to have a lot of fun. And if you didn't, then I don't know what's wrong with you. It might be a you problem and not a us problem. Just saying.
The slime layer. I'm barely
the slime layer. So if you want to see more programs like this, if you want to see more shows like this, consider joining our Patreon, and you can have special perks like coming on, and you can tell us both to be quiet and stop talking, and we will listen.
Yeah.
At least for about this long. But I want to thank our current patrons: Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Deborah Grace, Aaron Coalson, Phil Calderone, and me, myself. And please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. I want to thank our producers, Wes, Phil, and Kat, and the booking team, Wes, Raymond, Ellie, and I always get her name wrong, Correa. I keep wanting to call it Correa, and for some reason I'm like, okay, stop. What is that?
Think of it like, so her TikTok handle is courageous.
Yes, that's
so Correa, courageous.
For a long time, I called her Courageous, and it's like that's not really her name. So
no, but
I'll try to do better.
TikTok handle, you can find her that way.
There you go.
Yeah, she's a brilliant. She's the person to know if you want to know things about other people. That's for sure.
That's right. Absolutely. She
always knows the dirt on everyone. She knows she can dish it out.
And that's why she is so good on our booking team, because she knows the people. And she knows the dirt, and she can get in here.
She can tell you to reach out to me earlier to get Forrest. Have you told her that you wanted Forrest on?
I've told Wes. Wes has been
like, this is your fault.
Just blame it on Wes.
Okay, sorry. No blame though, for real.
That's okay. We have other shows too that you want to check out. There's Secular Soapbox, Women Atheist Unload, which I'm one of the co-hosts on that, so check that out. Global Atheist, and The Bible Says What. In the meantime, remember to always think critically. Good night, everybody.
Good night.